In this video, we're going to discuss the perimeter and area of rectangles, squares, and parallelograms. So let's first start with a rectangle. A rectangle has two sets of sides that are each parallel to one another. So this side here is parallel to this side up here, and then this side on the left is parallel to this side on the right. And in a rectangle, these sides are not going to be of equal length. So we have one side that's called the length. We could call this one the length as well. They're the same length. But then we have the width. And the two widths are the same, but the length and the widths are different from one another. So for the perimeter of a rectangle, all you have to do, and this is true for any shape really when you're finding the perimeter, all you need to do is add up all of the sides. So the perimeter is our width plus our length plus our width plus our length. Or you could rewrite this as 2 width plus 2 length. Another way that you could write this formula is you could pull out the like terms, and we'll talk about this in later videos, to get a formula that looks like this: 2 times width plus length in parentheses. So let's do an example. Let's say that our length is 12 feet and our width is 8 feet. I am going to use this second version of the equation, but again, it doesn't matter. If you prefer this version, you could do that if you wanted. So perimeter is 2 width plus length. Our width is 8 feet. Our length is 12 feet. 8 plus 12 is 20 feet. 2 times 20 gives us 40 feet. So the perimeter, the distance all the way around our rectangle, is 40 feet. If we want to find out area, so how much surface this shape covers, then we want to use the formula area equals length times width. So we're going to use the same two numbers, but we're going to put them together in a different way. So for this same example, our area would be length times width. Our length was 12 feet, and our width was 8 feet. So in order to figure this out, we're going to do 12 times 8, which is 96. And then for the units, we're doing feet times feet, so that's feet squared. So for our rectangle, the perimeter, the distance around the sides of our shape, is 40 feet, and the area, how much space it covers, is 96 square feet. The next shape we're going to look at is a square. And these formulas are very similar for a square as they were for a rectangle. The big difference is with a square, all of the sides are the same. So I'm just going to call these all S for side. But if you wanted to call them all lengths or all widths, that's fine too. So perimeter, again, is adding up all of the sides. So we're going to do side plus side plus side plus side. There's 4 sides, so we could rewrite this as 4S. And then the formula for area is length times width, but our length and our widths are the same, so it's side times side. And really we would write this as side squared. So let's do an example. Since this is a square and all sides are the same, you only need to be given one of your sides. So let's say our square has a side length of 7 inches. So if we want to figure out the perimeter, The perimeter is 4, because there's 4 sides, all of the same length, times the length, 7 inches. 4 times 7 is 28, so our perimeter is 28 inches. Area is side squared. Again, our side is 7 inches, so 7 squared is 49. And then the units will also be squared, so it'll be inches squared. The third shape we're going to look at is the parallelogram. So a parallelogram is a lot like a rectangle, except it's sort of tilted onto its side a little bit. We still have one side, or one set of sides rather, that's parallel to one another, and then a second set of sides that are parallel to one another. But now these angles here, you'll see, they're no longer 90 degrees. So this angle is a little less than 90 degrees, this angle is a little bit more than 90 degrees. If we considered this to be our base, and then this to be our side, and you could have used length and width here if you wanted to as well, it wouldn't really change anything. We would write the formula for our perimeter just like we would for anything else. We have 2 bases. There's a base up here as well, and then a side over here. So base plus base, and we have 2 sides. We could say this is 2b plus 2s, or you could pull out the 2 and say it's base plus side, or rather 2 times base plus side. So that's perimeter. Area is a little bit different for the parallelogram. So for a rectangle, we simply multiplied the length, or the base, times the width, or the side. With a parallelogram, we can't quite do that. With a parallelogram, we have to define another part of this shape, and that part is called the height. The height is measured from this point right here. We drop a line down, and we make a right angle right here. This is called the height. I'm going to label it H. Sometimes it's also referred to as the altitude. Now, what you might notice is if we took this piece right here, we made a triangle. If we took that triangle and we chopped it off of the left side and brought it over here to the right side, so we're going to replace it right here. So now our shape is just in where I'm circling. This is a rectangle. So the rectangle's formula for area was length times width. Our length is our base, and our width is our height. So for a parallelogram, the area is base times height. And you want to be careful that you're not confusing height with side. So let's do an example. Let's say that we had a parallelogram whose base was, let's say, 10 meters. And then let's say its side was 7 meters. And let's give it a height of 6 meters. Let's figure out both the perimeter and the area of this parallelogram. So the perimeter is 2 times base, 2 times, in parentheses, base plus side. Our base is at the bottom and the top. It's 10 meters. Our side is this edge, so not the height. It's right here or right here, but not the height. And that's 7 meters. So if we add what's in parentheses, that's 17 meters. 2 times 17 is 34. So our perimeter is 34 meters. For our area, we're doing base times height. The base is the bottom or the top of your parallelogram. That's 10 meters. And the height is not the side, but it's this line right here. Or it could be this line right here. I just didn't draw this earlier. You could have thought of it as this piece over here. And that is 6 meters. So 10 times 6 is 60. Meters times meters is meters squared. Let's summarize. We have 6 formulas. For our first one, the rectangle, the perimeter is 2 times, in parentheses, length plus width, where the length is here and the width is here. Generally, we define length as the longer dimension and width as the shorter dimension, but if you switched these, it wouldn't change your formula in any way. And area is length times width. Next, our square, we have a side, and all sides are the same, so we can call them all S. The perimeter is simply adding up all the sides, so it's 4S. And then the area, just like with the rectangle, it's length times width, but both our length and our width are sides, so it's side times side or side squared. With our parallelogram, the perimeter is adding up all the sides, so we have a base, a side, and a side. So it's 2 times, in parentheses, base plus side. In our area, this is where we have to talk about this piece right here called the height, or sometimes it's referred to as the altitude. The area is the base, so the top or bottom of your parallelogram, times the height.